What's up, YouTube? I am officially back on my channel. Anyways, I'm back with my labor and delivery story. I have so much to tell you guys. My baby boy is finally here. He has made his grand entrance. Right now I am currently breastfeeding, so he'll probably be in the video, I don't know. But right now we're just gonna get right into it. I don't want to get too long here. I don't want to waste you guys' time, but I'm here with a video today. So I just want to first and foremost start off and tell you guys I was in labor for approximately maybe 3 days, maybe 2.5. I'm not sure exactly how many hours I was in labor. I could tell you from the day of me going to the hospital in general, I was there a very long time. So I think I'm gonna just start the story from the morning of me going to the hospital, because prior to that, me and Devontae and my mom and my sister, we just been in and out of the hospital. It was just a very stressful moment for us, getting sent home all the time, thinking that he was coming, but he really wasn't. So we were just really going back and forth with the whole thing, and it was a very stressful moment. And just know that we were declined. I was only centimeters, and I've been 2 centimeters maybe for a whole week before my labor started progressing. So I just want to let you guys know that it was a very difficult time for me, and this is the reason why I stood away from YouTube itself, was just because I needed time for myself and getting prepared for this little boy. That is the most amazing thing that ever happened to me. I just want to give a big shout out to Devontae for everything. I mean, for me finding out I was pregnant to the end, I just want to thank him for everything. He's dealt with and put up with a lot of my pregnancy hormones, and I just, you know, want to thank him for everything, because I don't know how a male like him can put up with a female like me. So let's just get right into the video. So the morning of me going to the hospital, I was in the hospital that night. So I think about around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I was there at the hospital, and that right there, I was only dilated to 2 centimeters. And I remember they sending me home with some pain medication, and the pain medication did not help or work. It did not do nothing for me. I have not gotten any sleep prior, and I just was hoping to get some sleep that night, and I did not get any sleep. So I was just very miserable. And I remember waking up in the morning and maybe around 4 a.m., 5, going back and forth from the bathroom to my room, running the hot water, getting inside the shower, trying to calm down the contractions, because the contractions were just so close together, which is reason why I was just so confused on why I was only 2 centimeters. I couldn't believe where I was, knowing that, you know, I was going through all of that. Around 6 a.m., I remember walking around the house, walking around with everyone asleep, just going in and out of every room, just walking, because that was the only thing that can soothe my pain. Laying down did not help, especially on my back, which you're not supposed to lay on your back anyways, but that's the only way I felt comfortable. So I would put like a lot of pillows behind me, and I would like lay down, because both my sides hurt. I could not, and the only way I could possibly lay down was on my back, and even then it was really hard. So after that, I remember getting up in the morning and telling Devontae, like, I need to go to the hospital. And he was like, you know, just so stressed. We were just both just stressed out going back and forth to the hospital. But I just was telling him, like, I'm in so much pain, like, I can't take this, like, they need to figure out what's wrong with me. So we get in the car, and I tell my mom, you know, if anything goes down, we'll, you know, Devontae will come back for you, you know, I'm just gonna go check really fast. We get in the car, and Devontae starts driving, and he goes to the beach. Instead of the hospital, we go to the beach. And I remember him getting me out the car, and he was just like, we're gonna walk. Well, if your labor has started, this will progress it a little faster, you know, let's just see how it does. So I remember walking on the beach, and it was like one strand that we walked down, and we walked back, and by then I just could not walk anymore. I was just telling him like, I can't do this. And I remember getting back in the car, and I told him, can we not go home right away, because I just, the car is kind of soothing me to like fall asleep, and I have not gotten any sleep. I'm very tired. So he ended up driving a little ways for me, and we ended up like maybe on the south side of Oxnard. And I remember him stopping by the dollar store, and he had picked up like this tea that his mom had told him to get. And it was like, I guess, this traditional tea that women use to like progress their labor or so forth. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it's called. I do have it in my cabinet. He got it for me, and we had went to the house, and I remember him pluffing up all the pillows for me, tucking me in. He had made the tea for me and everything. He had put sugar in it because he knows I'm not about to drink it straight. So he had put some sugar in it, and he put it right there by my little dresser thing, and he was like, I'm gonna be right back. And I just wish he never left that morning, because I had taken like 2 sips of that tea, and I tried to lay down and I couldn't. And I remember getting up and I was crying, already bawling in tears, and I had told my mom in the she was sitting in the living room. She's like, are you okay? And I'm just like, Mom, I need to go to the hospital. Like, I really need to go. This time I'm not even joking around. Like, I really need to go. And she was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, Mom, I need to go. So I remember walking downstairs, and I clearly blacked out of everything, to the point where I left my bag at home, like with my ID and everything, and I'm not sure if I needed that for the hospital. So I was like, Mom, did you grab my purse? She was like, no, we were already in Ventura. So I was like, oh my gosh, that was one thing I needed you to get before we left to the hospital. And then we arrived at the hospital. My mom dropped me off right in the front of the hospital, and I remember walking in, and everybody was staring at me because I was like holding my stomach. I was crying, and I remember the security guard had grabbed like the wheelchair for me, and I had sat down and it waited for my mom to come. But I was so much in pain, they had already started taking me upstairs, getting me into evaluation. And I remember like laying in the bed, my mom came and got my wristband and everything, and I remember the nurse and the doctor from the same night had came in and was like, oh, you're back? And I'm like, yes, I'm in pain, I can't do this, can you guys figure out what's going on with me? Nothing's helping. She was like, okay, well, let's just check to see where you're at. So she had checked me. Right when she checked me, I was already 4 centimeters dilated, so they had admitted me right away. I tried to get a hold of Devontae. I could not. I didn't have service in the hospital, so I had to use a hospital phone. I was calling everybody. I was calling his brother. I was calling everyone. I was just like, can you guys get a hold of Devontae? I'm in labor right now. So they had gave me a room. The room was so nice. It was just so beautiful, like seeing, like, you know, the little warmer for the baby and everything. It was just like, it was coming so real. And at that point I was just like, oh my god, I'm about to be a mom. My son is coming. And this was July 21st, sorry. This was the 21st. I just remember, like, oh my god, it was just so emotional for me, and I couldn't get a hold of Devontae. So I started walking around the unit trying to get myself to dilate a little bit more. Back in the room, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, I couldn't. So the doctor came in and was like, okay, so let's check to see where you're at. Still at 4 centimeters. So they went ahead and popped my water. So I remember, like, my water breaking. They broke it for me, and I just felt like this warm gush. It was just like, what the heck? I was just so surprised. And they had me go to the bathroom and pee because they were going to come upstairs and give me my epidural. And at that point I was just so excited to get that because I was tired. I was so miserable, not getting any sleep, and at that time I was just ready for my epidural. I had went to the restroom, I wiped myself and everything, and I just remember so much water just coming out. They had like a pad like under me and stuff, like this big diaper thing, like, you know, just whatever. And the doctor eventually came in and gave me my epidural, and boy, I was feeling like 10 times amazing. Like, I was feeling so amazing. Like, you guys don't have no idea what that epidural does for you. And I know some people are against it, so I'm not here. This is not a debate on who gets epidurals, who doesn't. I personally loved it. I didn't have any problems with it, and it didn't hurt. So When they did the epidural, I remember the nurse was like, did you want me to shut the lights off? And I was like, please. My room was completely just dimmed. It was just so beautiful, peaceful, cool. It was nice. The AC was blowing. It was just amazing. I was just in heaven. And my mom was laying there too. She was like, I'm gonna lay down too. She started trying to get a hold of my sister because she was at the house and she needed to get away to get to the hospital. Finally got a hold of Devontae, and Devontae ended up coming, and he was there with me the whole entire night. Like, he stayed by my side. When they came back in for me taking a nap, they wanted to check how much I had progressed with my labor. I was still 4 centimeters. At that point, I was just like, what is going on? After my, sorry, the plane is going by. After my water breaking and stuff, I just figured that my labor would progress a little bit more. So the doctor kept telling me, you know, we're gonna keep you overnight. Well, of course, we're gonna keep you here and we'll just like see, you know, when you'll dilate more or whatever. So they put me on Pitocin, and I think that's what slowed down my labor just a little bit, because I just was not progressing no more. And they just checked my cervix so much. It was just so much that they checked it, that my cervix started to swell up. By that point, I'm like, is my son gonna be able to come? Like, am I gonna be able to push? Am I gonna be able to have a vaginal delivery? And at that point, I was just so confused. And they had came in and told me, you know, you're not dilating anymore, and we're gonna see around 11 o'clock if you're even dilating anymore. And if you're not, then we're gonna have to, like, you know, think about other options on delivering your child. And I'm just sitting there, and I remember looking at Devontae, and Devontae was just like, you know, like, we just didn't know what to say, because it's not like something that I was planned to have. It's not something I went and to the doctors and they're like, hey, you're gonna have a C-section. Like, you know, it's not something that, you know, I was mentally prepared for, because I'm thinking I'm gonna, you know, hey, it's time to push. You know, that's all I'm ready to hear. You know what I mean? So at that point, I was very emotional. And I just remember telling them, like, you know, I just want to go to sleep. You guys can check in a couple hours and let's see what's going on. So they said they're going to check me around 11 p.m. So 11 p.m. comes, they check me one more time, and I'm not dilated anything past 5. I think I was 5 centimeters and nothing past then. And at that point, I was just so emotional. I just knew that I was going to have a C-section. At that point, I just knew, because my body was just in so much pain and so much stress. And because my cervix being swollen at that point, I knew his head wasn't going to come down any further. So they kept me on Pitocin that whole night. Well, they had took me off because my son's heart kept dropping. Every time it dropped, like, Devontae was going crazy. Like, he wanted to punch the doctors, you know, because it was just like his heart just kept going away. And they had me on my hands and knees, and they were putting stuff inside me, like trying to reach the baby's heartbeat and trying to find it. And it was just, it was so emotional. I cannot, like, that right there, I don't think I can ever go through again, because my heart dropped for him. Like, you know, his heart dropped about 6 times that entire night. And the one that really scared me was the one that happened right before the C-section. It was the morning of it, and I remember calling my mom, telling her exactly when I was going into you know, to surgery, so she can come down to the hospital. My cousin Misha picked my mom up, and, you know, everything like that. And I remember counting down the hours till my C-section, and I don't know if I had fallen asleep, but I remember the nurse rushing in, and she was like, can you turn over on your side? Like, she tried to turn me over because his heart was dropping. They weren't getting any signal of his heartbeat. 2 other doctors came in, and there was like 4 nurses in there. And I remember Devontae knocked out, and he had woken up to it, because, you know, it was like early in the morning. It was like probably around, it was like 7 in the morning. he wakes up and he's like, what is going on? He just sees these doctors and they have me on my knees and my, you know, everything, and they're trying to get his heart to come back up. They're like, okay, they're trying everything. And I just remember sitting there crying, and my braids are so heavy, and I was just like crying. And Devontae came holding my back, and he had put his head to my face, and was just like, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I was just like, I'm scared. I just kept whispering in his ear, I'm scared, I'm scared. And he was just like rubbing me, telling me that everything was gonna be okay, you know. So right when they got his heartbeat back up, that's when they were like, we need to do this surgery. So they had started taking me down there. I remember like this big old OR room. I'll never forget like what an OR really looks like. Like, it is crazy, and I've never had surgery before, so this was my major surgery I've ever had. I've never had to go under anything or never had to be cut and open, so it was definitely very scary. And they took Devontae to go get scrubbed up and everything, and they put me in there, and I was wondering what was taking so long for them to like really bring Devontae in the room. But I think it was more because they're prepping me, and that's like the most, like, you know, thing that they ever have to do, because once Devontae was actually inside the room, it took like that. But they started prepping me, putting medicine in my epidural. Since I already had an epidural, they didn't have to do like that other medicine that they do when you have a C-section, so that was kind of good. They kind of just used where my epidural was, and they sedated me. And I just remember they're shaking on, I was shaking the whole time on the table. I was really shaking, and they put the, you know, like washed me up, my stomach up and everything. And they were just doing so much stuff to prep and get ready to deliver my son. So at that point I was crying, and I can see Devontae like outside the door, like looking in, and I just kept staring at him, crying, you know, just crying. And they finally let him in, and I was just like, oh my God. I just was like, I'm so scared right now. And he was like holding my hand, and he was just like, it's gonna be okay. Can you like come a little? I was like telling him to come a little closer, like, can he put his face on my face? Like, it was soothing. It was, you know, the pain went away when he was closer to me. So I was just like, can you come closer to me? And I remember him grabbing, I think there was like a chair next to me, and he sat in the chair, and he was just like kissing me multiple times on my forehead and everything, just telling me everything was okay. And it was that moment right there, I just knew like everything was gonna be okay, because they're getting ready to open me up. And when they did, I told Devontae like to look over the curtain to see what was going on, and he has a very sensitive stomach, so he really just glanced really fast and came back down and was like, I'm not telling you what I just saw. 2 minutes after that, they're like, okay, we're gonna put pressure on your chest. And they started pressing on my chest, pulling and tugging me, and I was like, I could feel myself being pulled, but I couldn't feel anything. Like, I was so numb down there, I could not feel a thing. And they kept pushing on my chest, and Devontae couldn't like see tears coming out my eyes, and he's just rubbing my tears away and kissing me, and he's like, everything's okay, everything's okay. And soon after, I just hear my baby come out, and I couldn't see him or anything, and I was just like, what is going on? But I heard his cry, and it was like the best feeling in the world, like hearing him cry. And Devontae was just like kept smiling, and he was like, I'll be right back, because they took the baby to the warmer, and he went over there and he was like looking at him and stuff, and it was just so nice. And once they got him where they needed him to be and checking him and making sure he was okay, they wrapped him up in a blanket and handed him over to Devontae. And Devontae came over and showed me him, and I was just like crying, because I was just like, he was so like beautiful, like it was just the perfect thing ever. And I just, what is going on with the planes today? they brought him, he let me see him, and they were gonna, you know, get me all together and stuff. And I remember just falling asleep after that. I think they sedated me because I was shaking so much. Yeah, I was shaking, so they sedated me, and I woke up in recovery. And I remember them having my baby, and they're like, okay, do you want to breastfeed now? And I'm just like trying to open my eyes, I'm all tired and stuff, and I'm just like, huh? I'm just like, what? I can't, like, I'm not comprehending anything that you're saying right now. They put the baby on me, and I'm trying to breastfeed and put him on my boob, and I'm just like, I'm so tired, can you guys get him for me? Like, I could not stay up for nothing. Like, the medicines were just so overpowering me. So I get to my regular room, and I was feeling it. I was definitely feeling the pain afterwards. It started to wear off, and Devontae came in the room and everything, and people started coming up and wanting to see the baby and things like that. And I just remember, like, being in so much pain and tired. I didn't want the company. I kind of just wanted to focus with my son and try to breastfeed, because breastfeeding is what I want to do. And it's, so far, my baby is about to be 3 weeks old on Sunday, and so far breastfeeding has been absolutely amazing. Exclusively breastfeeding on demand right now. He latches perfect. He's like breastfeeding, but he came out breastfeeding material. Like, he is the best at breastfeeding. My milk supply is great. Everything is going so smooth, so I hope it can continue. But labor was definitely the craziest thing. My pregnancy was amazing, and I'm just so happy to get through it all. My weight has dropped tremendously. I feel myself again. I am so excited that he's here. I'm gonna show you guys a little glance of him. This is Osaya. He just got done breastfeeding right now, but he's gonna go back on the boob right now because he's trying to go to sleep. But this is my baby. It's a little hot right now, so that's why he's not dressed. Just letting him cool out and be a cool guy today. He is my greatest blessing in the world. Hi. He's smiling at me. He's always smiling. He's the most smileless baby in the world. He smiles. You could just be looking at him and he starts smiling. It is crazy. And me and Devontae are just so blessed and happy that he's here, and we just been really just giving our attention to him, and he makes me happy. And you don't know what love is until you have a child, and this is exactly what this is, like love at first sight. And if there's anybody in competition with Devontae, it's definitely our son. So yeah, that is my story. There isn't much after that besides, you know, staying in the hospital for 2 days. My cesarean was so, I don't know, doctors told me I was doing an amazing job for somebody who just had surgery like that. I did a lot of walking, I did a lot of things independently, so that's probably why they didn't, you know, really, they asked me if I wanted to go home, and I was like, I'm ready. So I thank you guys so much for continuing to support my channel and support me, and I hope that you all enjoyed this story. I definitely have some new videos coming out. My nightly routine with my son, my morning routine with my son, just some little family vlogging and things like that, so stay tuned. I promise to send more videos out. I feel so confident about this. You guys have been truly supportive on Instagram, telling me and DMing me. I can't tell you guys enough how happy and blessed I am to have you guys. So stay tuned for my rest of my videos, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.